Now, if you're going to get to Fauci, that's an interesting topic, okay? So I'm a huge believer in vaccines. I think those vaccines saved millions of lives. I think they were great. I think the scientists in the world are correct. Bob on Facebook is incorrect. Now, having said that, we do nuance. Truth matters, right? It's not about ideology. So was it a lab leak? Probably. Okay. And I said that well over 2 years ago, because first thing they come out and they say, okay, we got a COVID outbreak here right next to the Wuhan lab on virology. And I'm like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out, right?
Yeah. Or a virologist.
Right. And then they said, no, all the scientists have weighed in and it wasn't a lab leak. I go, okay, I believe in scientists. So I said, I guess it wasn't, and although it looks, but I guess it wasn't. And then they put out a statement like around middle of 2021, early 2021. They're like, we were kind of lying about that. And the scientists don't agree. I was like, oh, that's it. I'm out. It's definitely I can't say it's definitely a lab leak because I don't have the evidence, right? Mm-hmm. But logically, it is very likely to be a lab leak.
And check remember the Jon Stewart going on Stephen Colbert?
Yeah.
Remember that whole reaction?
Yeah, it was so funny.
And this was when the lab, like, if you even brought up the lab leak, it was like, you're a conspiracy theorist. It's like, why? Everything you just said is absolutely correct because the leak came right in Wuhan, right next to the Wuhan Virologist Institute of Lab Leaks. You know, like, what? Okay. But Jon Stewart went on there, this one, and he basically was like, essentially stating exactly what you're saying is like, but you want me to believe that a bat made out with the pangolin and that's it. It's like, it just makes sense.
And by the way, when they put out things like that, and it turns out it was like 4 government scientists, when they put out statements like that, they do great damage to science because then they lose credibility.
Correct.
And then when 99% and 99% of scientists say something, we need people to believe them. It's really important. And so they're still playing around with some things around political correctness, and so it drives me crazy. No, you have to follow actual science, right, and not leave ideology behind.
And how do you feel, Cenk, about like Pat? Who's that guy that RFK was like? They'll debate the guy, but he was
Peter
like,
Hotez.
Peter Hotez, and he's like, well, like, how do you feel about them? Like, literally, like an RFK. I don't know how you feel about him. I'm interested to see. But if you're a scientist, what are you scared about to sit there and talk with a guy that's not a scientist, but he's dedicated his entire life to this world? Why wouldn't you want to show the world, like, hey, I'll debunk whatever this RFK character is going to talk about? Why wouldn't they do that?
I know the specific answer to that because I know RFK Jr. from a long time ago because he was, a significant left-winger for a long time.
Environmental lawyer.
Yeah. And he was actually a really good lawyer and cares a lot about the environment. So another nuanced guy, okay? Yep. So he asked me to find scientists to debate him on vaccines well before COVID because he's always been against vaccines, right? And I went and tried because I thought we like exchange of ideas. We allow for disagreements on TYT, right? So, and I asked a bunch of scientists to do it, and they wouldn't do it. Why? At the time, there wasn't as much skepticism about vaccines, and they're like, so if I go on, it seems like a 50-50 debate when it's not a 50-50 debate. It's not me. It's every scientist in the world versus RFK Jr. Yeah. But if they're watching that debate, they can't get a sense of that. That's point one. Yep. And point two, I'm not great at debating. I'm great at science, right? And so if this guy beats me in a debate because he does some rhetorical tricks or something, I've said science back instead of forward. That's why they didn't want to do it. Nowadays, I think there's a better argument to do it. Find a great, debater among the scientists. You got to find one or two, right? Mm-hmm. And have them say over and over again the thing that is true. 99% of the world's doctors and 99% of the world's scientists believe in these vaccines, and they believe in them for a reason. And by the way, we're now doing the same thing fundamentalist Muslims did. When we and I researched this when RFK Jr. asked me about it however many years ago, 5, 7, 8 years ago, right? They were doing polio vaccines in Pakistan, and they're like, oh yeah, the Christians are trying to put something in our blood and we don't want it. Not all of Pakistan, but some portions, the ones that are closer to Afghanistan. And then because they didn't get the vaccines, polio struck. And then when their kids were disabled, they're like, no, please, American scientists, come back, okay? But it was too late by then. Now our own Christian fundamentalists are doing the same thing. No, I don't want the vaccine. They're going to put a chip in me. Dude, Elon Musk is trying to put chips in your brain and you're okay with it. But you thought there was some 5G crap in the vaccine? No, vaccines save lives. There's a story out today that hundreds of thousands more Republicans died because they didn't take the vaccine. You're only hurting yourself. We were trying to help you. But look, now the danger is past in terms of like spreading it to other people. Now it's turned into basically a common cold. So if you don't want to take the vaccine, have at it, Hoss. Don't take it. I don't care at all because it's your business, not my business. Then it becomes just an issue of freedom. Then you're right. Yep. But before it was an issue of spreading it to other people.
Got you.
Well, I mean, you're saying that, where you're talking about the vaccine saved so many lives, all this other stuff. You have one of two positions to take there, okay, when you say that. And this kind of works against Trump, by the way, because it's his own side that didn't take the vaccine. When he says, no, I'm the one that did, warps, it was sped it
Operation
up.
Warp Speed.
And if it wasn't for me, which he's right, he's the guy that did it and sped up the process. And Pfizer announced the vaccine a week after election, actually 3 or 4 days after election when it was finally approved it's going to come out, versus coming out 2 days before they could have announced it.
That's
so we know
fishy,
some of that stuff that's kind of fishy, right? So, what do you say to these stories that's coming out? Athletes, passing out. LeBron James the other day, middle USC, is a myocarditis, and the athlete Hamlin from Buffalo Bills, and you're seeing more and more and more videos,
Colombian
and it's creating that
World Cup soccer
level of skepticism with the side effects of a COVID vaccine because they only had 9 months to test it out, and how do we know it was fully good and the side effects that it has? How do you respond to that now?
So science on that one is unsettled. So some people, there's a lot of people making up stuff. Oh, I got a shoulder ache, I got a backache. That's got nothing to do with vaccines, okay? But now on that heart issue, they've changed the numbers twice, okay? So they said it was a lot more rare. Then they said it's a little less rare. Now it's a little less rare, right? Now, by the way, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't necessarily take the vaccine because, hey, the vaccine side effects could affect, 10% of people, but if you don't take the vaccine, 20% could die, right? So vaccines, again, it doesn't mean you just don't take it. But there could be an argument, totally unsettled. I'm not saying this is the case. I'm saying they got to look a lot more into it. And for God's sake, let them do actual science without political interference from either side, right? So look into it more, and it might make sense that the young don't take the vaccine.
I was just going to say, there's no reason why he's 18 now, so it would have been 16 at the time, let's say. A 16-year-old world-class All-American athlete like a Bronny James should even consider taking the vaccine.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
No, I
now
hear
if
you.
Grandma James, who's 88 years old, wants to take the vaccine, go for it.
Yeah.
If you want to take it, obviously go for it. But to be mandated for a young, healthy guy, it makes no sense.
I hear you on all that. And I'm just going to say one last thing about that, guys. So a lot of people misunderstand science. So when I say the science is unsettled, that's because they haven't done enough studies yet, right? That doesn't mean, they're rigging it and they're changing the numbers. No, you change the numbers as more facts come in, right?
And that's ultimately RFK's entire point, is it not?
Not exactly. RFK's always been against vaccines, and I've never supported it.
I think he's more about against mandating vaccines without them being tested.
That's the point.
I don't think he's about, vaccines are all bad. He goes, we need the testing.
Yeah,
he's not for all. Yes and no. I've read the whole book. I don't know if you read his whole book or not. I've read the whole book cover to cover. Very, very technical book. It's not a book you read and it's like you have to be ready when you read that book and set the phone aside, get away from the kids to be able to read that book. But, I think you sound reasonable right now when I'm listening to you. Just to be fair with you, you sound very reasonable. You took, how many boosters did you take, by the way?
Probably, I took 3 shots overall, I think.
Oh, so you took the 2 shots and 1 booster.
No, I took Johnson & Johnson. So I took 1 shot in the beginning and then 2
boosters. Okay, got it. Fair. So I haven't taken anything, by the way. I didn't take any of it. In our family, my dad took everything plus 4 boosters, and he is the most conservative guy in our family. So he's not he's far on a complete, he's an imperialist. He's a Shaw guy. So just kind of, if you want to see where he's at. Our nanny took it. I didn't take it. My wife didn't take it. Our kids didn't take it. But when you see this thing, the biggest concern for me with this is this report came out, New York Times reports coronavirus deaths overcounted by 30% on paragraph 17. You can find this, and we went to New York Times. We found it. We're like, we overcounted it maybe by about 30%. These types of reports that's coming out, I'm not going to debate. This is not a debate. I'm just going to give my thoughts, and we'll go to the next issue. Yeah. The part that was a little bit concerning with this was, again, going back to the judgmental side. Dude, people got out of the military for not wanting to take the vaccine. It was the force part. When you say, yeah, of course, we don't have enough data. We get data, and the facts change and numbers. I agree. I totally agree. But allow me to have the level of the option to say, can I see a little bit more until side effects happens for me to want to take it? Sure. No. If you don't, you're fired. If you don't this. that was the part that I think they played their cards in a way that completely lost the trust of the populace in a big way, where they forced it down people's throat without being able to see what the real consequences were.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.